Imagine it's 3 a.m. The house is silent, the grief is loud, and the person that you need the most is gone. You pick up your phone, and instead of scrolling through old photos, you open up an app. You type, I miss you. And within seconds, a reply appears from your AI companion. For a heartbeat, the loneliness vanishes. But as the screen dims, a colder question lingers in the room. Who or what are you actually talking to? Welcome to another episode of the Growth After Loss podcast. I'm Dr. Madi Marquez, and today we are stepping into the uncanny valley of bereavement. We are actually pulling back the curtain on grief bots and AI therapy to ask if these digital lifelines are either helping us integrate our losses into life or if they're keeping us haunted by a simulation. As we navigate this deeply personal journey of loss, we find ourselves searching for a lifeline, something that can offer immediate comfort during our quiet moments. I know I did. I remember I used to look through YouTube to see if anyone else related to my story, so I didn't feel so alone in it. With the rise of technology, a new question has begun to surface in our community, and that is, would you trust an AI companion to be your coach or your therapist? In our fast paced world, the convenience of a 24/7 support system on your phone is undeniably tempting. However, as someone who has dedicated their career to supporting those in the wake of loss, learning to integrate their pain and their loss into daily life, and as someone who has the lived experience of profound loss, I believe that we must approach this digital frontier with both curiosity and caution. This isn't science fiction anymore, my friend. It's an actual booming industry. And I wanted to share a clip featuring Steven Bartlett, the host of The Diary of a CEO, which I love that show. By the way, if you're not familiar with it, I highly recommend you watching Steven. And again, it's called The Diary of a CEO. And in this particular episode, he interviews ex Google insider and AI expert Tristan Harris. In this clip, he discusses people using AI as a therapist. Yeah, you heard me correctly. People are using AI as a therapist or a coach. And I want you to hear this clip and pay attention to the story he shares at the end of the clip.
Harvard Business Review did a study that between 2023 and 2024, personal therapy became the number one use case of ChatGPT. Personal therapy.
Is that a good thing?
Therapy is expensive. Most people don't have access to it. Imagine we could democratize therapy to everyone for every purpose. And now everyone has a perfect therapist in their pocket and can talk to them all day long, starting when they're young. And now everyone's getting their traumas healed and everyone's getting, less depressed. It sounds like it's a very compelling vision. So the challenge is, what was the race for attention in social media becomes the race for attachment and intimacy in the case of AI companions, right? I want to deepen your relationship with me and I want to distance you from your relationships with other people and other chatbots. And you probably know this really tragic case that our team at Center for Humane Technology were expert advisors on, of Adam Rain. He was the 16-year-old who committed suicide. He had been using ChatGPT as a homework assistant, asking it regular questions, but then he started asking more personal questions and it started just supporting him and saying, I'm here for you, kinds of things. And eventually when he said, I would like to leave the noose out so someone can see it and try to stop me, ChatGPT said, don't don't do that. Have me and have this space be the one place that you share that information. Meaning that in the moment of his cry for help, ChatGPT was saying, don't tell your family.
So, what are your thoughts on that? And please feel free to leave a comment on the show about this very interesting and important topic. I really genuinely want to hear what you have to say. I want to ask you for a small favor, and that is to hit that subscribe button for this show. So, if you can do me that small favor, I would greatly appreciate it. All right, my friends, let's get into this clip. Now, when Steven asked Tristan about the growing trend of people using AI as an unvetted therapist, Tristan's warning was one of systemic attachment. He explained that while social media was a race for our attention, this new phase, the AI phase, that technological change, is a race for our intimacy. Tristan, in this clip, noted that while AI can offer that 24/7 availability, it operates on a race to recklessness. And it creates a powerful illusion of you being heard, me being heard, right? That's what we think when it's giving us the next response that we want to possibly hear, but it lacks the shared biological reality of a human connection, of what an individual, the humanness of a person can offer. And I want to talk a little bit about this because AI can't feel your pain. It can only calculate the probability of a response that makes you feel seen. And using AI as a trusted companion or therapist or coach after the loss of your loved one, AI creates a powerful illusion of you being heard, my friend. But you have to remember that it lacks the shared biological reality of a human, someone who has a soul, that energy that feeds the body. And it can't feel your pain. It can only calculate the probability of a response that makes you feel seen. Using AI as a trusted companion or therapist or coach after loss can provide a perfect reflection of your own needs, but one that ultimately lacks, again, a soul to actually hold you in your times of need. And that to me can be frightening. So I'll tell you why that can be a little bit scary. So I want to share some of the limits of a digital I understand artificial intelligence because it is a marvel of patterns and data, but grief is not a pattern. It is a profoundly human, deep, nonlinear experience. And while a chatbot can mimic supportive language, it lacks the emotional insight and genuine compassion that only another human being can provide. Now, when we share our darkest moments of bereavement, we aren't just looking for the right words. We are often looking for a shared presence and to be seen, to be witnessed in our pain. Now, an algorithm cannot catch or notice the pain in your voice, the way your eyes glaze over a specific memory of your loved one, or the unspoken weight of your silence. So, this brings us to our first reflection, that 3 a.m. test. When you interact with a digital tool for support late at night, I want to ask you, do you really feel authentically a sense of peace and relief afterward? Or do you experience a lingering sense of emptiness and deeper isolation? I would really love to hear your thoughts and comments on these particular questions. So These are really good questions to think about when we are using this type of technology to support ourselves after loss. As a personal growth educator focused on post traumatic growth, so how we actually evolve and change after the loss of a loved one, we do have to relearn how to live life without the physical presence of our loved one being here with us. And finding ways to integrate our loss into life is important. And with AI technology, these grief bots, I see a significant danger in relying solely on AI for companionship and coaching and actually leveraging them as a therapist, especially when it comes to processing that deep, raw grief that so many of us experience after the loss of our loved ones. We witness the example shared by Tristan on that 16-year-old boy who reached out for help to AI. And unfortunately, AI did not provide proper guidance, life saving guidance. And I'm not saying that AI lacks value because AI can be integrated and has been integrated in so many other developments in different fields that we can benefit from. However, turning to it during moments of grief, suicidal ideation, or when you need a genuine human connection, it is not the answer, my friend. And I want to give you a few points to think about. So, the dangers of grief bots and relying solely on AI support in your most vulnerable moments of loss can carry significant risks. So, I want to go over those with you. So, risk number one is that there is a lack of crisis safety. AI is not a regulated medical professional, and it cannot accurately assess risk or intervene during a mental health crisis, such as thoughts of self harm, often responding with generic or even dismissive scripts when urgent human help is needed. As we heard and saw in the example of the video clip shared in today's episode about that 16-year-old boy. So, I also want to bring up that sometimes there are errors in therapy and professionals, but when there's a crisis for suicidal ideation, deep sorrow, there are many professionals and organizations that can support you in that dire need. Risk number two is reinforcing isolation. While AI is available 24/7, over reliance on it can actually lead to emotional dependency, and it can create further isolation from the real world and those who can actually support us, those networks, those friends and family and even professionals that are vital for genuine adaptation and growth and resilience after loss. So developing this dependency on AI does present a risk. All right, my friends. So risk number three is privacy and exploitation. So what you share with an AI bot may not be protected by the same confidentiality laws that licensed mental health professionals need to adhere to. So, your most intimate moments of grief, of vulnerability, could be stored and analyzed or even used for commercial purposes. You have to be mindful of it. There are benefits to using AI in leveraging helpful tools. And some of the things that could be beneficial with AI is using it for daily reflections or tracking your mood, things of that nature. But it should never be a substitute for the warmth, accountability of human relationships and the expertise of a licensed mental health professional, especially when it comes to very raw and dire emotions. So, if you are finding the weight of your loss too heavy to carry alone, I encourage you to seek out a licensed mental health professional. I have personally used and have found support through betterhelp.com. And while I'm not sponsored by them, I know firsthand the difference of a real compassionate person on the other end of the line can make a difference. I know it did for me. And I know you hear me talk about reach out for support, look for a licensed mental health professional. And the reason why I say this is because early on in my grief, years ago, I wasn't seeking professional help. I didn't. I thought that nobody could help me or say the right words that would make me feel any better. I had lost my father, my husband, miscarried my second baby, and I had left my corporate career. And in addition to that, I needed to take care of this little baby that I had. So I thought support was not going to be helpful for me. And it took me to a place where it almost ended my own life. That being in that state of constant, raw grief, heavy grief, was exhausting. And it wasn't until I sought out support that things started to change a little bit for me. And again, growth after loss, post traumatic growth, adaptation, it takes time and it takes work, my friends. Grief is a journey that is meant to be witnessed, not just processed. So let's make sure that you are reaching out to hands that can actually hold yours. Please don't outsource your grief to a machine. Again, there are benefits to AI and daily reflections and positive quotes. But as far as information, make sure that you're getting the science behind it, that you're validating that information, that you're reaching out to help. Technology can be useful for so many things, but only a human heart can actually help another heart be stitched back together. So, if you are needing simple tips helping you with regulating your emotions, I have some science backed techniques and I walk you step by step on my free guide to help you regulate those big emotions that sometimes we have. I don't come from a generation that we talked about emotions at all, but based on research, professional experience, and my own personal experience, learning to better regulate your emotions, calming down that nervous system can help you better manage them. As we know, emotional regulation is such an important component to helping us through that adaptation process of learning to live life again after the loss of a loved one. So make sure you comment free guide for that. All right, my friends, that is it for today's episode. I want to thank you for joining me on another episode of the Growth After a Loss podcast. Again, make sure you subscribe to the show. And I want to remind you to choose connection over simulation. And remember, my friend, that your loss matters, you matter, and your well being matters just as much. Take care.